Hi everybody, my name is Karmella Barr and I am so happy that you are here. I'm going to call it a workshop at this workshop because I think it's very important for everyone to take the time to recognize and help the revolution, because it is something that is very important for everyone to take seriously and put in the work. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you for coming to listen to me, and I hope that I'm able to provide you some sort of guidance if you may have any questions. Also, at the end of the video, I will have my social media, so my Facebook and my Instagram will be linked in there, so should you have any additional questions, feel free to contact me. Let's get to it. I wanted to start off by speaking about the phrase, all lives matter. First, I want to say, of course, there would be no one in this world that would have the audacity to tell you that your life is not as equal a value as mine. That is not what we mean when we say Black Lives Matter. When we say Black Lives Matter, we are bringing attention to the fact that people of color, in particular Black people and some Indigenous people, are unfortunately brutalized by government entities, most likely the RCMP in Canada and police in the States. So that is where this chant and slogan, Black Lives Matter, comes from. There is no, it does not in any way, shape, or form saying that your life has any lower value than mine, because how could we be fighting for equality if we're saying that you are less important than me, or I'm more important than you, or things like that? Like, it just doesn't make sense if you really think about it. Also, another thing I wanted to say is, if you are to think about it like this, there's been many memes that explain it in terms of birthdays. So if you're at someone's birthday and you're celebrating with them and you're singing happy birthday to your friend, let's say, and then halfway through the festival, you're just like, well, I have a birthday too. It's like, yes, of course you have a birthday. Most people do have birthdays and most people celebrate them, but it's not your birthday right now. So hopefully that sort of adds some more clarity on it. There's also an example of a house being on fire. If you see a house on fire, everyone's going to put their resources to put that fire out. But if a neighbor comes out and says, well, what about my house? Well, it's like, but your house isn't on fire. Like, it doesn't need help right now. Like, should you need the help, we'd be happy to help you out, but that's not the main issue. So hopefully that adds some clarity to that. Next, I want to talk about the idea of white privilege and what that is and can look like. So, as a person that is of Jamaican descent, I walk around the world and I have a different experience than someone who is, say, a white man, for instance. When I walk places, some people may follow me. If I'm in a store, they might follow me, might give me a little bit of extra attention. And sure, you could argue that they're trying to give me the best service possible. But there are many harmful stereotypes that come with people of color, that is perpetuated in books, in movies, in the news, things like that. And more or less, they view Black as something or someone that is possibly going to steal from them, things like that. Whereas if a white person just walks in, it's normal. It's just like, hello, let us know if you need anything. However, with a person of color, it's more, there's more attention on them. I also think that if you are using your privilege, I've seen lots of videos in the States mostly of people of color who are raising their fist and they stood in like I believe it was at the White House, and they were just peacefully protesting with their fist up, and the police were advancing to that person of color really aggressively. Then as soon as their white friend or like a white counterpart came and stood in front of them, it was like a spell was entrancing them and they stopped. Like, their speed and agility sort of ended and stopped. So it's just interesting to recognize the programming that we all have, um, and how we react to people of color versus people who are not colored. I think that that is important for you to just realize and have an awareness, because even though you might not be aware that what you say or how you're thinking is possibly rooted in racism, it's just having an awareness of the implicit biases that you might have. Okay, this is the last one. Thank you so much for being present with me. I really appreciate that. But last but not least, we're going to talk about the idea of white privilege and how you can use it in a positive way. So, as someone who is Black, I am really happy to have this melanin on my body. But my experience from someone that is white, for instance, we have very different experiences. And that all comes down to systemic racism. Now, when we say things like that, it's things that are subtle. It can be things that are overtly racist, but it can mostly be things that are subtle. So, for instance, an example of white privilege, there was a picture, I believe it was in America, but still, it's a prime example of hair care products. So it was in Walmart, and there were hair care products that were geared towards white people. And it was like a normal shelf. You just like had it all available, and people were able to come and go as they pleased, right? Well, for the products that were geared more towards people of color or people that might have hair that was coarser or textured, it was behind a plexiglass, and there was a sign that read, "Please ask for assistance." Um, it's something that is so subtle, and people don't realize it, because if you don't need to ask for the help, that's not something that would register as like, oh my gosh, that's kind of racist. Do you see what I mean? So there's just certain things that are subtle. Some might be overtly just wild and prejudiced, but it's just having the awareness to know and check yourself as well as other things, and just consider, wow, is this racist, and how can we change it? And I think that another instance of using your privilege for good is always, always, always standing up and saying, calling something out for it being racist or offensive or oppressive in any way. I think that how you do that is totally up to you. I think that you can get more of an understanding from people if you are compassionate. I think that some people might be a little bit too passionate with their delivery sometimes, and I think that's what gets that wall to go back up, as I mentioned before. So definitely try your best to use as much compassion when calling something out, because I think that you will reach more people that way. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this little bit. I have in the next slide my information, like I mentioned before. So if you want to reach out to me and have some more chats, I am totally okay with that. Just keep in mind, I'm one of few people of color that are willing to do that. But other people might be dealing with this and processing this in their own way. So just consider that before you choose to ask your friends who are visible minorities for help on this, because that's a lot of emotional sort of turmoil that they might be under. But I am coming out and saying that I'm totally okay with you asking and checking in with me. Have a great day. Thank you.